Hello, fam, welcome. Have you ever made a decision so painful that it haunted you every single day of your life? My name is Halima, and I'm 51 years old. I work as a cleaner in a big company here in Abuja. Most people who pass by me only see the woman with tired eyes and worn shoes. They don't know the storm I carry in my heart. A storm I created many years ago in Zaria when I was just a girl of 17. Back then, I was a student in a government secondary school. My father, Mr. Idris, was a respected teacher. My mother sold masa and kunu in the market. We were poor, but my parents did their best. Then it happened. I fell in love. His name was Omar, a tall, sweet-talking young man who came from Kano to do his NYSC in our school. He taught computer studies, and to me, he looked like a prince. We met after classes sometimes just to talk, but talk became touch, and touch became shame. I got pregnant. I was afraid. So afraid. I hid my pregnancy for 5 months before my mother found out. The beating that followed nearly took my life. My father refused to speak to me for weeks. Umar had already traveled back to Kano. His number stopped going through. The shame was heavy. My father said I brought disgrace to the family. My mother cried every night. Then my parents made a plan. They sent me to my mother's cousin in Jos to give birth in secret. They told everyone in Zaria that I was going to learn tailoring. When I gave birth, he was a baby boy. I still remember his tiny fingers, his cries, his warm skin on my chest. But I wasn't allowed to keep him. My uncle arranged for a woman to take him. They said she was a nurse who couldn't have children. I begged them to let me hold him for at least 1 more night. They refused. I never even got to name him. They took him away the same day I left the hospital. I returned to Zaria with my heart empty. People whispered. Girls avoided me. Boys mocked me. I dropped out of school and started selling groundnuts by the roadside. I stopped dreaming. Years passed. I married a man named Kabiru, a mechanic. He was kind at first, but everything changed after I miscarried twice. He began to drink, shout, and beat me. I stayed because I had nowhere else to go. After 10 years of pain, I left him and moved to Abuja. Life in the city was not easy. I cleaned houses during the day and washed clothes for families in the evening. I slept in a 1-room face me I face you building in Nyanya. I never remarried, never had another child, but I never forgot the one I gave away. Each time I passed by children's schools or saw a young man in his 20s, my heart would whisper, could that be him? Then came the day everything changed. One early morning, I was called to a new office, Blue Core Technologies, a fast-growing tech company in Gwarimpa. They had just hired new cleaners. I needed the job. The pay was slightly better, and the office had air conditioning. I thanked God. The company premises was beautiful. Shiny floors, glass walls, and computer screens everywhere. The staff wore jeans and t-shirts. They called each other by their first names, no sir or madam. It was a different world, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. On my second week there, I was mopping the floor outside when I heard someone say, "Good morning, Mr. Daniel." I looked up. He was tall, confident and handsome. About 28 or 29. He wore a navy blue suit with a laptop bag over his shoulder. He had a deep voice and a warm smile. Everyone respected him. He greeted me politely as he walked by. "Good morning, ma." Our eyes met. Something in my chest shifted. That night, I couldn't sleep. The way he walked, the shape of his nose, his smile, his skin tone, everything reminded me of Omar and of the baby I gave away. I told myself it was just a coincidence. But deep down, I knew. I just knew. Days turned into weeks, and I watched him from a distance. His name was Daniel Yusuf. He had no parents, only a foster mother named Mrs. Ruth Yusuf, a retired nurse. A retired nurse? My nails weakened the day I found out. I began to ask questions carefully. One of the receptionists, Blessing, told me he was adopted as a baby in Jos and that he never hid the fact from them. He was raised in Kaduna. He studied software engineering in the UK, came back to Nigeria to build a tech startup. He's smart, kind, and humble. And he never knew his birth parents. I would often go to the toilet to cry. What was I supposed to do? Walk to him and say, "I'm the mother who gave you away"? What if he hated me? What if he fired me? What if he ruined the good life he had built? So I stayed silent until one day the truth came close. I was in the break room cleaning the sink when I heard Daniel talking on the phone. His voice was louder than usual. "Mom, I told you I don't want to do that DNA search. What if I don't like what I find? What if they are just people who threw me away?" My hands shook. I almost dropped the mop. That evening, I went home and cried like a child. I took out the only thing I had left from that time, a small cloth cap the baby wore in the hospital. I had stolen it before they took him away. It was now old and faded, but I still held it to my chest. I knew I had to tell him. But how? The next week, I took the cap to work and kept it in my pocket. I planned to wait after closing hours and speak to him. But when I got to his office, he was in a meeting. Then I lost my courage again. Then something unexpected happened. One of the staff, Mr. Yemi, had an accident. He slipped on the wet floor I had just mopped. The HR manager said it was my fault. I was to be suspended, possibly fired. I was called to Daniel's office. I sat down, shaking, the cap in my pocket. He looked at me gently. "Madam Halima, you have been one of our most hardworking staff here, but this is serious. The company could be sued. What do you have to say?" Tears filled my eyes. I opened my mouth, but instead of defending myself, I whispered, "I have something else to say, sir. Something I should have said long ago." He looked surprised. "I know this is not the right time, but please listen to me. Years ago in Jos, I had a child I was forced to give away. A baby boy. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. He was adopted by a nurse, a Christian woman. She raised him in Kaduna. His name became Daniel." He froze. The silence was loud. My hand trembled as I pulled out the old baby cap from my pocket. He stared at it, then back at me. His eyes narrowed. What? What are you saying?" "I think you are my son." For a long time, Daniel said nothing. He stared at me, his face hard to read, a mix of shock, confusion, and pain. I felt like the ground should open and swallow me. My nails trembled. I held onto the baby cap like it was the last thing keeping me alive. "You think I'm your what?" he asked again slowly. I took a deep breath. "My son." Silence. The air between us was heavy. "Do you realize how crazy this sounds?" he said, his voice flat. "You are a cleaner. I'm your boss. You don't know me. How can you just come in here and say something like this?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Daniel stood and walked to the window. His back was to me. "I don't know who my parents are. My mom, I mean the woman who raised me, she never hid the truth. She said I was brought to her by a relative of a young girl who couldn't keep me. She said it was in Jos, but she didn't know your name or your face." I nodded. "That's true. I was the girl. My uncle gave you away. I wasn't even allowed to name you." He turned sharply. "So what now? You just want to come back into my life like nothing happened?" His voice was rising. I felt tears gather in my eyes again. "No, I know I don't deserve anything. Not forgiveness, not even a second look. I just wanted you to know the truth before I'm gone from this world. That's all." He looked at the cap again, then at me. "What's the proof?" I swallowed. "I don't have papers. I don't have photos, but I remember everything. Your father's name was Omar. He was a copper in Zaria. I gave birth to you in a small private hospital near Tudunwada. You had a tiny birthmark on your left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. That's all I can remember." Daniel's eyes widened. He slowly pulled down the collar of his shirt. There it was, the mark. I gasped. My hand flew to my mouth. I hadn't seen it in over 28 years, but I knew it. I started crying. Daniel sat back down, holding his head in both hands. He didn't say anything for a long time. I didn't expect him to. I just quietly stood up, wiped my tears, and left his office. I expected to be fired the next day, but instead, I was called to the HR's office. They said Mr. Daniel had asked for my suspension to be dropped. I could continue my job. Nothing more was said. Weeks passed. He didn't speak to me, not even a glance. Every day, I went to work with my heart heavy, but I reminded myself that I had done what I came to do. At least he knew the truth now. That was better than hiding. Then one afternoon, I saw him waiting by the gate after work. "Madam Halima," he said. I turned, surprised. "Yes, sir. Do you have time? Can we talk somewhere? Somewhere private?" I nodded. We sat in a small booker not far from the office. He didn't touch his food, just drank water. Then he spoke. "My mother passed away last year," he said quietly. "The woman who raised me." I lowered my eyes. "I'm sorry." She was kind, firm, gave me everything. She even supported me when I wanted to start this company. "You were blessed to have her." He looked at me. "That day, when you told me, I was angry, confused. I didn't know whether to believe you or run." "I understand." But then I went home and sat with her old diary, and I found something. A photo of a woman she said she never got to thank. A young girl in a faded wrapper, carrying a baby. It was you. My hand flew to my chest. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the picture. "I did a background check," he continued. "Jos, Zaria, the hospital. Everything matches. The timeline and the story." He looked at me deeply. "I believe you." My lips trembled. "But I don't know what to do with this," he said. "I mean, all my life I wondered who left me. And now I know. But it's not just an answer. It's a wound." "I'm sorry," I whispered. "More than I can ever say." "I don't hate you," he said. "I can't. I've tried, but somehow when I look at you, I see pain. I see regret. I see a woman who made a mistake but never stopped hurting." I nodded slowly. "That's the truth. Every single word." Then he asked the question I feared the most. "Why didn't you look for me?" I started crying. "I wanted to, so many times, but I was scared. What if you had a better life without me? What if you were better off not knowing? I thought maybe I lost the right to be called your mother." He was quiet. Then he said, "Maybe you did lose that right, but you are still my blood. And maybe we can start small. Slowly. I don't know if I'll ever call you mom, but maybe I can call you Halima. And maybe we can have lunch once a week." I broke down crying again. He passed me tissue. From that day, something changed between us. He didn't treat me like a stranger anymore. He would greet me with a smile. Sometimes bring me tea. On Fridays, we'll sit and eat rice together. He told me about his life, his dreams. I told him about my past, my mistakes. Months passed. One evening, he invited me to an event at the company, a staff awards night. I tried to say no. Me? A cleaner? but he insisted. When I arrived, everyone clapped. He stood on stage and said, "Tonight, I want to honor a woman who is more than just a staff. She is living proof that life is full of second chances. She gave me life, and now I'm proud to say she's part of mine again." Tears filled my eyes. Everyone stood up and clapped. I cried like a baby. That night, he walked me home and gave me a small envelope. Inside was a key. "To your new flat," he said. "You can't be living in that face me I face you anymore. And please don't argue." I laughed through my tears. Today, I'm no longer a cleaner. I manage the office, kitchen, and welfare. Daniel insisted I learned new skills. He paid for me to take classes. He even calls me Auntie H. He has not yet called me mother, but every time he hugs me before leaving work, I feel like the child I lost is finally home again. Thank you, my dear viewers, for watching. Here are a few moral lessons I learned. The truth may hurt, but silence keeps wounds bleeding. Telling the truth may be difficult, but it brings healing. Redemption is possible, even after grave mistakes. Love and forgiveness can open doors that once seemed forever closed. I hope you enjoyed the story. Till I come your way again next time with another interesting story. Bye.